The strange bracelet. Daniel never believed in fate. He was the kind of person who laughed at ghost stories and ignored strange signs. But that summer evening, as the sun was setting and the forest grew quiet, he found something that would change his life forever. Daniel was hiking alone through the hills outside his small town. The air smelled of pine, and the wind whispered softly through the trees. He liked this place because it gave him peace, far away from noise and people. His boots crunched over dry leaves as he climbed higher, his backpack bouncing against his shoulder. Then he saw it. At first he thought it was just a piece of metal half buried in the dirt. It looked like someone had dropped an old bracelet, strange and glowing faintly under the fading light. The metal wasn't rusted, and it shimmered as if it was alive. It had symbols carved into it, symbols he had never seen before. He crouched down, brushing the dirt away with his hand. The bracelet seemed warm, almost pulsing with a heartbeat of its own. For a moment Daniel felt a chill, like someone was watching him from the shadows. But he shook his head and laughed nervously. "It's just junk, maybe some weird jewelry," he muttered. Though his voice did not sound very sure, he picked it up, turning it in his hand. The bracelet was heavier than it looked, yet it fit perfectly in his palm. Something about it drew him in, a whisper inside his mind telling him to try it on. Daniel told himself it was stupid, but curiosity was stronger than caution, so he slipped it onto his wrist. The moment the metal touched his skin, it tightened. The bracelet locked around his wrist with a sharp snap. Daniel gasped, pulling at it, twisting it, trying to slide it off, but it would not move. Not even an inch. It clung to him like it was part of his body. "Okay, this isn't funny," he whispered, panic rising in his chest. He tugged harder, even using a small rock to try prying it off. The bracelet only glowed brighter, as if mocking his attempts. Strange light ran through the symbols, glowing blue and silver. Daniel dropped the rock, staring in disbelief. As night fell, the forest grew darker. The trees around him seemed taller, their shadows stretching like claws. He felt uneasy, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. The bracelet's glow was the only light, shining faintly in the gloom. Daniel finally gave up trying to remove it and decided to head back. He would figure it out later, maybe cut it off with a tool at home. But as he walked down the path, something strange happened. The bracelet hummed softly, a vibration against his skin. It felt warm, almost too warm, like a living thing. The sound was not just a hum, it was a whisper, words he could not understand. Daniel froze, his heart pounding. The whispers grew louder, filling his head. The words rolled in a language not from Earth, sharp and soft at the same time, and yet somehow he understood a part of it. 3 words kept repeating. "You are bound." Daniel shook his head violently, stumbling down the path. "This is insane. I'm just tired. I'm imagining things," he said out loud. But the bracelet glowed again, answering him like it heard every thought. It pulsed once, twice, in rhythm with his heartbeat. That night when Daniel finally reached his small cabin at the edge of town, he was shaking. He locked the door and sat on his bed, holding his wrist under the light. The bracelet looked even stranger now, shining with hidden energy. He searched the internet on his phone for ancient symbols, alien languages, anything that looked similar. But nothing matched. No history book, no archaeology site, no forum thread. Exhausted, Daniel finally lay down. He told himself he would sleep and deal with it tomorrow. But as soon as he closed his eyes, he was no longer in his room. He stood in a vast black space, stars burning around him. An endless void stretched in every direction. His body felt light, as though he was floating, and in front of him stood a figure made of light. Tall and glowing, with eyes like fire, the figure spoke, not with a mouth, but with a voice inside his head. Its tone was calm, yet carried weight like thunder. "You are chosen," it said. "You are bound. Consort of the court." Daniel's heart nearly stopped. "What court? What are you talking about? I didn't choose anything," he shouted. But the voice ignored his protest. The stars around him spun faster, and the words echoed over and over. "You are bound, chosen, claimed. Daniel woke with a scream, his sheets soaked with sweat. The bracelet was burning hot, glowing brighter than ever. And he realized with horror that this was not a dream. Something had marked him. Something beyond Earth. And whatever it was, it had only just begun. Daniel barely slept that night. The strange dream of stars and the glowing figure kept flashing in his mind. When he touched the bracelet, it was cool again, as if nothing had happened. But deep inside, he knew something had changed. The next morning, he tried everything. Soap, oil, even pliers. Nothing could break the bracelet. It clung to his skin like it was a part of him. He wrapped it with his jacket sleeve, hiding it from sight. No one would believe him if he told the truth, and maybe, he thought, no one should. That evening, the air around his cabin grew heavy. The sky darkened too fast, clouds rolling in without warning. The silence of the forest broke with a deep hum, a vibration that shook the ground. Daniel stepped outside, his breath catching. Above the treetops, a rift opened in the air itself, glowing like a wound in the sky. From the rift, light spilled out, and shadows moved inside it. Daniel's chest tightened. This wasn't lightning. This wasn't a storm. He stumbled backward as three tall figures stepped through the glowing tier. Their armor gleamed with strange silver metal, their faces hidden behind masks with narrow eyes of blue fire. Each carried a staff that hummed with energy. One of them raised a hand, pointing directly at Daniel. The bracelet on his wrist flared to life. Shining the same color as their eyes, the leader's voice rang out, not in English, but in that same strange language from his dream. Yet Daniel understood the words perfectly, as though the bracelet translated for him. "Consort of the princess, we have found you." Daniel froze, his mouth dry. Consort. Princess? This had to be a mistake. I don't know what you're talking about. He shouted, his voice breaking. The soldiers moved closer, their steps in perfect rhythm. The ground vibrated with each movement, as if the earth itself feared them. One of them lowered his staff, and a glowing net of energy shot forward, wrapping around Daniel. He cried out, falling to his knees. The bracelet glowed even brighter, breaking the net apart in a burst of light. The soldiers stopped, staring at him. The leader tilted his head slightly, as if surprised. "The bond is real," the voice echoed. "He cannot resist. He is already chosen." Before Daniel could run, the rift opened wider, revealing a vast hall of light and steel beyond. The soldiers stepped aside, motioning him forward. Daniel shook his head violently. "No, I don't belong to anyone. I just found this thing in the dirt." But the bracelet pulsed hard against his skin, dragging him closer to the portal like a magnet. The moment he crossed the rift, the air shifted. He was no longer in the forest but inside a towering chamber. Pillars of crystal stretched to the ceiling, glowing with rivers of light. Strange creatures watched from balconies, some with wings, others with scales, all whispering as Daniel stumbled inside. At the far end of the chamber sat a circle of massive thrones, each carved from glowing stone. On the central throne sat a figure draped in silver robes, a crown of light above their head. Their face was hidden behind a veil, but their voice was strong and sharp. "Bring forth the consort," they commanded. Daniel was pushed to his knees in the center of the chamber. Dozens of alien eyes burned into him, judging, waiting. The voice of the crowned figure boomed again. "By wearing the bonded relic, you have sealed the marriage rite of the princess of our court." Daniel's eyes widened. "Marriage? Are you kidding me? This isn't a marriage, it's just a bracelet." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Harsh and cruel, the crowned figure raised a hand, silencing them all. "You dare speak ignorance," they said. "Do you not feel its power, human? Do you not hear the bond echo in your mind?" Daniel wanted to deny it, to scream that they were wrong. But he remembered the voice in his dream, the whispers that had spoken to him. He remembered the words bound, chosen, claimed, and deep down, he feared they might be telling the truth. A smaller figure stepped forward from behind the thrones. Her cloak shimmered like starlight, her movements graceful and deliberate. When she pulled back her hood, Daniel's breath caught in his throat. She was unlike anything he had seen, yet strangely familiar. Her skin glowed faintly, her eyes deep silver. But her face was close to human. She looked no older than him, though her gaze carried centuries of weight. "This is him," she said softly, her voice like music. "The relic has chosen, and so have I." Daniel shook his head, panic burning in his chest. No, you don't understand. I didn't choose anything. I found it by accident. I don't even know who you are." Her eyes locked onto his, calm yet unyielding. "I am Serenia, princess of the court," she said, "and now you are my consort." The chamber erupted in voices, some cheering, some shouting. Daniel's head spun, his pulse racing. He wanted to wake up, to open his eyes and find himself safe in his cabin bed. But this wasn't a dream. The bracelet burned hot against his skin. The same rhythm as his heartbeat. He realized with horror that there was no waking up from this. The princess leaned closer, her silver eyes never blinking, and with a voice only he could hear, she whispered the words that made his blood run cold. "You belong to me now, and soon our child will too." Asterisk. The alien court summons the hall. Was still shaking with voices when Daniel tried to stand, but the bracelet burned again, forcing him to kneel. He felt like a prisoner even though no chains touched his body. The aliens around him stared with curiosity, fear, and hunger in their eyes. It was as if he was no longer a man, but a key, something valuable that none of them wanted to lose. The princess lifted her hand, and the noise fell silent at once. Her silver eyes shone under the crystal light. She spoke with authority, her voice echoing in Daniel's head as well as in the chamber. "The bond is sealed. The relic has spoken. The human is summoned before the high court." Daniel tried to shout, "I'm not part of this. I didn't choose anything." But his words were drowned out by a deep gong that rang through the chamber. The sound was like thunder rolling across the stars. The thrones at the far end glowed brighter, and the crowned figure, the one who had accused him earlier, stood. He towered over everyone, his robe woven with threads of light, his face still hidden. But his voice was sharp as a blade. "The consort must face judgment," he declared. "By ancient law, no one wears the relic without the court's command. He has entered our union, and with it, our war." The word war struck Daniel like ice. He wanted to deny it, to beg them to let him go. But the bracelet pulsed hard, almost warning him not to speak. He looked at Serenia, the princess, hoping she would protect him. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried sadness, as if she knew what was coming. Two armored guards moved forward, gripping glowing staffs. They lifted Daniel by his arms and dragged him toward a wide door at the side of the chamber. The metal floor vibrated under his boots as they pulled him across. He struggled, but the bracelet burned every time he resisted. It was like fighting. Against his own heartbeat, the door opened into a massive corridor, walls lined with tall statues of alien kings and queens. Their stone eyes followed him as he passed. The guards spoke in their own language, their voices low. Daniel couldn't understand this time. The bracelet only hummed, refusing to translate. That silence made him feel even more alone. They reached another door, taller than the rest, carved with thousands of glowing runes. The guards pushed it open, and Daniel's eyes widened. He was standing in the true high court, a circular room larger than a stadium, the ceiling lost in shadows. Floating platforms held dozens of alien nobles creatures, of all shapes and sizes. Some had wings of fire, others long tails like serpents, others were made of shifting mist. They all turned their gaze on him, their voices rising in a storm of whispers. The guards forced him into the center of the circle. The floor beneath him lit up with blue light, forming a glowing symbol. It matched the markings on his bracelet. The whispers grew louder arguments. Anger, disbelief. Daniel's chest tightened, his breath quick and shallow. Then a voice cut through the noise. "The bond is unbreakable," it said, cold and certain. Daniel spun around. On a throne carved of black crystal sat another figure of power. Unlike the veiled ruler, this one's Face was visible, pale and sharp, with eyes like silver knives. He leaned forward, studying Daniel with interest. "This human has no idea what he carries," the man said, almost smiling. "But ignorance does not erase law." The chamber quieted again as the veiled ruler stepped into the light. "You have taken what cannot be taken by chance," they said. "The relic is not found. It chooses, it binds, it demands." Daniel shook his head furiously. "I didn't want this. I just touched it. I'm nobody. I'm not part of your princes, your court, your empire." For a moment, silence hung heavy, then the ruler raised a hand, and the floor symbol beneath Daniel glowed hotter. The bracelet pulsed in answer, and his body shook with pain. Voices rose again, some demanding his execution, others calling for protection of the bond. Daniel felt trapped inside a storm, his voice drowned by forces he couldn't fight. The princess finally spoke, her voice steady. "If the court denies him, it denies me," she said. "Break him, and you break me. Kill him, and you kill our future." The chamber froze at her words. Even the veiled ruler hesitated. "You dare," they whispered. But Serenia stepped forward, her silver eyes burning bright. "The relic has chosen, and I will not deny it. Neither should the court." The nobles began arguing louder, voices crashing like waves. Daniel stood shaking, his mind spinning. He realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about him. This wasn't about love or marriage or even choice. It was about power, alliances, and a prophecy he barely understood. The veiled ruler finally lifted both hands, silencing the chamber. "Then let it be so," they said. "The human will remain, but he must face the trials. If he survives, he is worthy of the bond. If he fails, the relic will consume him, and the bond will pass to another." The bracelet pulsed one last time, almost like a heartbeat inside his own. Daniel's stomach dropped. Trials? Survive? Consume? He wanted to scream, to demand answers, but the court's decision was final. The guards pulled him away, dragging him toward yet another chamber. Above him, voices rose once more, some laughing, some mourning, and Serenia's voice followed. Him in the chaos, soft but unshaken. "Do not fear, Daniel. The trials are only the beginning." Asterisk. The princess appears. The guards dragged Daniel through long corridors of silver stone. The walls shimmered faintly, covered in carvings that glowed. As he passed, he wanted to fight, to shout. But the bracelet burned whenever he resisted. Finally, they pushed him into a smaller chamber and locked the door behind him. The room was quiet. Unlike the great hall filled with noise and judgment, it was dimly lit by crystals that pulsed softly. Like slow heartbeats, Daniel sat down heavily on a bench, running his hand through his hair. "What the hell is happening?" he whispered, his voice shaking. He pulled at the bracelet again, desperate, but it stayed locked to his wrist, cold and stubborn. Then the door opened. Without a sound, a figure stepped inside, her cloak flowing like liquid light. Daniel's heart thudded when he recognized her, the princess. Serenia. She walked with calm steps, but there was a sharpness in her eyes. The guards did not follow her in. The door closed, and for the first time, it was just the two of them. Daniel stood quickly, unsure if he should bow or run. "You," he said, his voice tight. "You started all this, didn't you?" Serenia tilted her head, studying him as though he were a puzzle. "I did not start it," she said softly. "The relic did. The relic never chooses without reason." Daniel shook his head furiously. "No reason? I'm nobody. I work a normal job. I live in a cabin. I don't know anything about your court or your people." The princess stepped closer, the silver light in her skin casting shadows across the walls. Her expression was unreadable, a mix of curiosity and sorrow. "Do you think the relic cares for status, Daniel?" she asked. "It chooses for survival. It binds for the future." Her voice was calm, almost too calm, and that frightened him more than anger. Daniel backed up a step, his back hitting the wall. "What future?" he demanded. "What are you not telling me?" Serenia's eyes met his, unblinking, unshaken. the bond is not only marriage. She said slowly, it is creation. Daniel felt the blood drain from his face. What does that mean? He asked. His voice a whisper. Serenia raised her hand, brushing her fingers lightly over the bracelet. It glowed at her touch, brighter than before, responding to her as if she were its true owner. It means, she said, that life will come from it, from us, a child born of two worlds. Daniel staggered back, shaking his head. No, that's impossible. That's insane. I never agreed to this. Serenia's expression softened for the first time. I know, she said quietly, and for that I pity you. The silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Daniel's thoughts raced marriage. A child, a prophecy. He wanted to wake up, but every detail was too sharp, too real. The cold stone under his hands, the hum of the bracelet, the steady silver glow of her eyes. This was no dream. You must understand, Serenia said, breaking the silence. My people are on the edge of war. Rival houses seek to tear the empire apart. The relic has always chosen at times of crisis. And it has chosen you. That child, our child, will unite what nothing else can. Daniel's chest tightened. He thought of Earth, of his quiet cabin, of nights spent hiking in peace. He thought of how small and ordinary his life had been. And now they wanted him to save an empire. Him, just a man who had made the mistake of picking up a bracelet. Why me? He whispered, almost to himself. Serenia stepped closer again, her voice softer now. Because you are human, she sighed. Your kind is unpredictable, stubborn, capable of breaking paths others cannot see. The relic saw in you what I cannot, and now I must trust it. Daniel laughed bitterly, a broken sound. You must trust it, but I'm the one trapped. I'm the one dragged into your court, threatened with death, forced into trials, and told I'm a father to a child that doesn't even exist yet. Serenia didn't flinch at his anger. She only looked at him with steady, unreadable eyes. Anger is good, she said softly. It means you will fight. And you must fight, Daniel. Not for me, not even for yourself, but for what comes after. He turned away, gripping his hair, his mind spinning. He felt powerless, but beneath the fear there was a spark, a small, dangerous thought whispered in his chest. If he was bound, if escape was impossible, then maybe he could use this bond. Maybe he could survive the trials. Maybe he could take control instead of being dragged like a puppet. He turned back to Serenia, his eyes sharp now. What if I refuse? He asked, testing her. Serenia's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. More like a shadow of one. Then the bond will burn you from the inside, she said. And the court will choose another. But I do not believe you will refuse. The relic chose you for more than fear. Daniel swallowed hard, his throat dry. The princess reached out once more, her fingers brushing his wrist. The bracelet pulsed with light, and Daniel felt a strange warmth rush through him, not pain, but connection. For a heartbeat, he saw flashes in his mind, a great war, stars burning, a throne split in two, and a small hand glowing with the same light as his bracelet. He gasped and pulled away, his chest heaving. What was that? He demanded. Serenia lowered her gaze, her voice quiet. A glimpse, she said, of what waits for us both. Before Daniel could ask more, the door burst open. The guards returned, their armor clattering. It is time, one of them said coldly. The first trial begins. Daniel's stomach twisted, but when he looked at Serenia, she was already watching him, her eyes unyielding, her voice calm. Do not break, Daniel. Survive, and you will understand. As the guards dragged him away again, Daniel realized something terrifying. The princess was not his enemy, but she was not his savior either. She was something far more dangerous. The only person who truly believed he was meant to change everything. Asterisk the child prophecy. The guards dragged Daniel through winding halls until he was pushed into a chamber unlike the others. It was round and quiet, with walls of crystal that shimmered like frozen fire. Strange symbols floated in the air, glowing softly, moving like smoke. Daniel felt the bracelet hum against his skin, answering those symbols, as though it knew them. In the center of the room stood a tall figure cloaked in white. Their face was hidden by a mask carved with flowing lines of gold. When they spoke, the voice was neither male nor female, but something in between, calm, deep, and heavy with age. "You are the one the relic has chosen," they said, "and so you must hear the prophecy." Daniel clenched his fists, his throat tight. "I don't want prophecies. I don't want your trials. I don't want your marriage," he spat. The masked figure did not flinch. "Want is irrelevant," they answered. "The bond does not care for want, it cares for need." The air grew heavier, the floating symbols spinning faster. The figure raised their hands and the chamber filled with light. Images unfolded around Daniel, vast galaxies burning, fleets of alien ships colliding, thrones falling into ruin. He stumbled back, shielding his eyes, but the visions pierced straight into his mind. The voice echoed, clear and unshakable. "A child shall be born from the bond of two worlds, blood of man and flame of the court. This child shall unite the broken houses, or else see them fall into endless war. The empire will rise or burn with the birth." Daniel shook his head violently, his heart racing. "No, no. Stop, I don't want to see this," he cried. But the vision would not stop. He saw himself standing on a battlefield of stars, the bracelet glowing brighter than the suns around him. Beside him stood Serenia, holding a child wrapped in light. The armies bowed before them or fought to destroy them, the images shifting between triumph and destruction. The light faded, leaving Daniel trembling on his knees. His chest heaved, his throat burned, and sweat rolled down his face. The masked figure stepped closer, their voice low and heavy. "This is the burden you now carry. Refuse it, and both your world and ours will fall to ashes. Accept it, and your child will change the stars." Daniel's breath caught at that last word, child. He forced himself to his feet, his hands shaking. "I never asked for this. I never asked to be anyone's savior. I just found a bracelet." "In the dirt," he whispered. The figure tilted their head slightly. "Do you believe accidents exist?" they asked. "Or do you think even chance has its place in destiny?" Daniel turned away, pacing, his thoughts crashing into each other. A child, a prophecy, an empire depending on him. He had never even thought of being a father, and now they wanted him to be one across worlds. The weight of it pressed on him until he could hardly breathe. The bracelet pulsed again, as if agreeing with the prophecy. It warmed against his skin, a heartbeat within his own. Daniel slammed his fist against the wall in frustration. "I'm just human," he whispered harshly. "I don't belong in your empire. I don't belong to your princess. And I don't belong to your future." The masked figure studied him silently for a long moment. Then they spoke, slow and steady. "You may think yourself small, Daniel, but every empire is born from one small act. The relic never binds by mistake. It has bound you because your humanity is the weapon we cannot forge. Your fear, your stubbornness, your hope, these are the fire that our kind has forgotten." The words cut deep, but Daniel could not deny them. He had felt the relic respond to him. He had seen Serenia's calm certainty. The court might see him as a tool, but the relic had chosen him. And that thought was even more terrifying. The chamber door opened again, and Serenia entered, her cloak trailing behind her. The masked figure bowed their head to her, then faded into light, leaving the two alone. Daniel glared at her, his voice sharp. "You knew about this, didn't you? The prophecy, the child, all of it." Serenia's face was calm, but her eyes betrayed the weight she carried. "Yes," she said simply. "I have known since I was a child myself. I have waited for the relic to choose, and now it has chosen you." Daniel laughed bitterly, a sound with no humor. "So that's it. I'm just your prophecy's answer, not a person, not a choice, just fate." Serenia stepped closer, her voice softer now. "No, Daniel, you are more than that. The relic chose you, but what you do with that choice, that is yours. You can shape the future in ways no one else can." Her words struck something in him, but he turned away, shaking his head. I don't want to shape your future. I want my life back, my quiet cabin, my freedom. Serenia stood silent for a long moment, her silver eyes watching him. Finally she said, "Then survive the trials, survive, and you may earn the right to choose your path. Fail, and the relic will consume you, and your world will fall with you." Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed something else, fear. Not for herself, but for him, and for the child that prophecy promised. The guards returned, pulling Daniel once more from the chamber. As they dragged him toward the next trial, his mind raced with the echo of the prophecy. A child of two worlds, unite or destroy. He clenched his fists, the bracelet glowing faintly with every heartbeat. He didn't believe in fate, he never had. But fate, it seemed, had already believed in him. The child prophecy, unique version. Daniel thought the court had finished with him. He thought they would throw him into a cell or straight into the trials, but instead, the guards brought him to a place that felt older than the empire itself. The chamber was dark, lit only by veins of glowing stone in the walls. The air was heavy, as if it carried voices that had been waiting for centuries. In the center stood a wide basin of liquid light, glowing and shifting like a mirror of stars. The guards shoved him forward, then left without a word. Locking the door, Daniel walked closer, the bracelet humming louder with every step. The liquid rippled, though no hand touched it, and then the surface changed. A face appeared. No, not a face. Something greater, something that shifted between man, woman, and child. Its eyes glowed like twin suns, and its voice filled the chamber. "You carry the relic, you carry the future." Daniel stumbled back. "Not again," he whispered. "Not more riddles, I don't want this." But the vision did not stop. The liquid rose upward, shaping itself into scenes, images that stabbed into his mind. He saw a throne cracking in half. He saw alien banners burning. He saw two armies made of stars clashing until entire planets crumbled. And in the center of it all, he saw himself, his wrist glowing with fire. Then the image shifted. A small figure appeared, glowing brighter than the armies. A child with silver eyes like Serenia's and a human face like his own. The armies froze in the child's light, some bowing, some crying, some breaking apart in terror. The voice echoed again, slow and heavy. "This is the one to come, the child of two worlds, born of bond, born of war. Through them the empire will rise or burn." Daniel clutched his head, shaking. "Stop, stop. I don't want to see this." He shouted, but the images pressed harder into his mind. He saw himself holding the child, not knowing whether to protect or fear it. He saw Serenia standing beside him, calm, as if she had always known. The light faded, leaving him gasping, sweat dripping down his face. The chamber was quiet again, except for the soft hum of the bracelet. Daniel sank to his knees, his heart hammering. It was too much, too heavy, too impossible. The door opened, and Serenia entered. She looked at him, sweat-soaked, shaking, on his knees, but her face remained steady. "You saw it," she said. Softly, more statement than question. Daniel looked up at her with wide eyes. That thing, that prophecy, it showed me a child, our child," he whispered, his voice breaking. Serenia's gaze did not waver. "Yes," she said. "The child who will either unite us or destroy us all." Daniel shook his head, backing away from her. No, no, I'm not a father. I'm not a savior. I don't want to be part of this." His voice cracked, raw with fear. Serenia walked closer, her steps calm, but her eyes heavy with sadness. "You think I wanted this?" she asked quietly. "Since I was a girl, I was told the relic would choose, that a stranger would come, and that my future would not be mine. You think I wished for chains?" "No, Daniel, but we cannot cut them." Daniel clenched his fists, tears stinging his eyes. "I didn't ask for this life. I didn't ask for this bond. I didn't ask for a child that doesn't even exist yet." Serenia reached out, her hand hovering near his wrist but not touching. "The child already exists in time. If not in flesh, Every choice you make now is already shaping them. Daniel's breath caught, his body frozen. He wanted to scream at her, tell her she was wrong. But deep inside, he remembered the warmth he had felt earlier when the relic pulsed in her presence. That strange flash of connection, that vision of a small hand glowing with the same light as his. He shook his head hard, forcing the thought away. No, it's not real. None of this is real. I'll survive your trials. I'll find a way out. I'll cut this thing off if I have to. Serenia finally touched the bracelet, her fingers brushing. The glowing metal, the hum grew louder, and Daniel felt it deep in his bones. You cannot cut it off, she whispered. You cannot undo it. The relic does not make mistakes. Daniel pulled his wrist back, his voice sharp. Then maybe. The mistake is me. Maybe I'll fail your prophecy. Maybe I'll burn your empire to the ground. For the first time, Serenia flinched, her silver eyes narrowing with pain. You might, she said, her voice almost breaking. But if you do, you will burn your own world with it. The words struck him like a blade. He had been thinking only of himself, his freedom, his fear. But now he imagined Earth caught in the same war he had seen in the vision. Cities falling, skies burning, humans dragged into a fight they didn't even understand. And all because of him, because of a bracelet he had been stupid enough to wear. He sank back against the wall, breathing hard. The chamber felt smaller now, the prophecy pressing down on him like a mountain. Serenia watched him silently, her face unreadable. At last she said, The first trial comes soon, Daniel. Survive it, and you will see the prophecy clearer. Fail, and you will never live to hold the child you fear. The guards appeared at the doorway again. They seized Daniel's arms, pulling them up roughly. He didn't fight this time. His body was too heavy, his mind too broken. But as they dragged him out, the relic pulsed one more time, warm and insistent. And Daniel realized with horror that, deep inside, some part of him already believed the child was real. Asterisk trial of worth. The guards marched Daniel into a new chamber. It was not like the others filled with nobles or glowing thrones. This one was empty, vast and silent. A floor of dark stone stretching into shadow. The walls were alive with shifting patterns, strange shapes that moved like smoke trapped under glass. Daniel's heart pounded, his hands shaking though he tried to hide it. He kept telling himself to breathe, to stay calm, but his body didn't listen. The bracelet hummed again, the glow pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. One of the guards shoved him forward, and a deep voice echoed through the chamber. Begin. The trial of worth. The walls shuddered, and the floor cracked with glowing lines. Daniel stumbled back as the lines spread in a circle around him. The air grew heavier, the ground beneath him shifting. Then the shadows began to rise. At first they looked like smoke, formless and harmless, but as they grew taller, they shaped themselves into figures. Daniel froze, his chest tightening. They were human figures, familiar faces from his past, his father, his old friends, even teachers he hadn't seen in years. Their eyes glowed faint silver, their mouths moving in silence. No, Daniel whispered. This isn't real. This can't be real. But the bracelet pulsed, and suddenly their voices filled the room. You will fail, said one. You were never strong, said another. You will die here, and Earth will burn with you. Daniel covered his ears, but the voices were inside his head. He stumbled back, shaking his head furiously. Stop! It's stop! He shouted, but the shadows pressed closer, their forms solidifying, their hands reaching for him. He swung his fists wildly, hitting one in the chest. To his shock, it staggered back, but where he struck, the figure dissolved into smoke. Daniel gasped, his chest burning. They can be fought, he whispered, hope flickering. But then the others swarmed, their cold hands grabbing at him. He punched, kicked, shoved, his breath ragged. Each one he struck fell apart, but more kept coming. His strength faltered, his knees buckled, the whispers grew louder, now sounding like his own voice turned against him. You are weak, you are nothing, you are only human, you will fail them all. Daniel collapsed to the floor, his hands over his ears, his eyes shut tight, tears stung his face. I'm not, he whispered. The bracelet burned suddenly, not with pain but with heat. And a voice echoed inside his chest, not the shadows. It was Serenya's voice, soft but steady. Fight, Daniel. The shadows are lies. They cannot touch the truth inside you. His eyes flew open, the silver glow of the shadows pressing close. They looked less like people now, more like warped versions of himself, twisted, broken, each one whispering a different fear. Daniel pushed himself up, his fists trembling. No, he said louder now. You're not real. None of you are real. The bracelet flared with blinding light. The shadows screamed, their forms burning away in streams of smoke. The chamber shook, the floor glowing brighter as the last of them vanished. Daniel fell to his knees again, panting, sweat dripping down his face, then silence. The chamber was empty again, except for him. The patterns on the walls shifted one last time, forming a single symbol that matched the one glowing on his bracelet. And a voice not hostile, not mocking spoke again. You faced yourself and did not break. The first trial is past. Daniel dropped onto his back, staring at the ceiling with wide, exhausted eyes. He felt like his body was falling apart, every muscle burning, his lungs on fire. But inside his chest, something had changed. The bracelet no longer felt like a chain. It felt heavier, yes, but it also felt alive, like it was carrying him forward, not dragging him down. The door to the chamber opened, and the guards stepped in. They looked at him differently now, not with scorn, but with caution. One of them muttered something in their own tongue, and Daniel caught a single translated word: survivor. As they dragged him back toward the outer halls, Serenya appeared, waiting in silence. Her silver eyes flicked over him, taking in his sweat-soaked clothes, his trembling hands. You passed, she said softly. Daniel laughed bitterly, shaking his head. Passed? I nearly broke. I nearly gave up. Serenya stepped closer, her voice calm. But you didn't. That is the only difference that matters. Many stronger than you have failed the first trial. You are still here. Daniel wanted to argue, to tell her it meant nothing. But the relic pulsed again, warm against his skin, and for the first time, he felt it not as a prison, but as a heartbeat beside his own. The guards pulled him away, but Serenya's eyes followed him. There was no triumph in them, no smile, no victory. Only a strange sadness, as if she knew the trials ahead would be far worse. And as the doors closed behind him, Daniel whispered to himself, if this was just the first, then what in hell comes next? Asterisk, the final choice. The chamber of the final trial was not filled with shadows or monsters. It was silent, almost empty, a circle of stone with only two paths ahead. Daniel stood at the center, his body aching, his mind still raw from everything he had endured. The bracelet glowed faintly, pulsing like it knew this was the end. From the shadows, the veiled ruler appeared, their voice calm but cold. The trials are finished, human. Now comes the choice. One path returns you to your world. The bond broken, the relic shattered. You will live free, but the empire will burn. The other path binds you forever. The relic whole, the child born. Through you the empire survives, but you will never return home. Daniel's chest tightened, his throat dry. It was everything he wanted: freedom, a way out, to go back to his quiet cabin, his old life. And yet the vision of earth burning returned to him. The sound of shadows whispering his fears. The child's silver eyes glowing in the storm. It wasn't just their empire at stake. It was his world too. The bracelet pulsed harder, almost painfully. Serenya stepped into the circle, her cloak flowing behind her. She didn't speak, only looked at him with eyes that carried both hope and sorrow. It wasn't a command, it wasn't even a plea, it was trust. Silent and heavy, Daniel closed his eyes, his hands trembling. Part of him wanted to scream, to choose freedom, to run until he forgot all of this. But another part whispered that if he walked away now, He wouldn't only be abandoning them, he'd be abandoning himself. He opened his eyes, his voice rough, but steady. I never wanted this. I never asked for it. But if I walk away, everyone loses. If I stay, maybe I can change something. The chamber shook, the relic blazing with light. The veiled ruler raised their arms as the stone paths crumbled away. Only one remained, the path forward, glowing like fire. Daniel took a deep breath, his chest heavy but his steps firm, and he walked toward the light. The relic fused tighter to his skin, no longer a bracelet but part of him. A bond sealed not by chance but by choice. The voice of the court thundered. The consort has chosen. The bond is whole. The child will come, and the stars will bow or burn. Daniel turned once, meeting Serena's eyes. For the first time he didn't see chains. He saw a storm, a future, a war, and a fragile chance to win it. As the chamber doors closed, his voice whispered low, "Then let's see what destiny really means."